Good morning, I'm Wayworn Worm, and welcome to my channel, and welcome back to the Monster Manual Backward. Today, we are continuing through Appendix A, talking about wolves, and the various kinds of wolves. The wolf is a medium beast, unaligned, with an armor class of 13, 2d8 plus 2 hit points, a speed of 40 feet, strength of 12, dexterity of 15, 12 constitution, 3 intelligence, 12 wisdom, and 6 charisma. It's skilled in perception, which has a +3, and stealth, where it has a +4. With a passive perception of 13, it speaks no languages, challenge rating 1/4. Wolves have 2 abilities, keen hearing and smell. The wolf has advantage on perception checks that rely on hearing or smell, and my favorite, pack tactics. The wolf has advantage on attack rolls against a creature if at least one of the wolf's allies is within 5 feet of the creature and the ally isn't incapacitated. Its only action is a bite attack, which is a melee weapon attack, +4 to hit, reach of 5 feet, 1 target. And on a hit, it does 2d4 plus 2 piercing damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 11 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. I love wolves. I think they are great against low-level parties and are still shockingly effective up to through the medium tier of the game, especially the more wolves you add. Because with pack tactics, you wouldn't want to throw a single wolf at a party. You would want to... I wouldn't throw less than 1d6 wolves at a party. And as I've said before, pack tactics is my favorite. And one of the reasons why it's my favorite is giving advantage on attack rolls. Basically, it's flanking, except they don't need to be directly opposed. And giving advantage is mathematically the same as giving a +5, so that bite essentially becomes +9 to hit, which is going to give you a decent chance to hit through a good chunk of the game. Now, the DC 11 strength saving throw, that is quickly, against most characters, becomes variations of trivial. As well as just the condition prone itself is not ever that terrible. Unless the wolves have creatures... are fighting with creatures that don't have pack tactics. Because remember that advantage, it doesn't matter how many instances of advantage you have, they all just count as 1. And that also means that if you have at least one instance of disadvantage, the advantage and disadvantage cancel each other out. They are not... It's not a one-to-one thing, like, oh, I've got 2 ways of giving myself advantage, 1 way of giving myself disadvantage, I still have advantage. That would actually just be a straight roll. Beyond that, another thing that giving advantage does, beyond the +5, statistically, is it makes the chance of critically failing go from 5% down to 0.0025%, which means you're not statistically likely to get a critical fail until you've rolled something like 10,000 times. And it also brings the chance of critically succeeding from 5% to just under 10%. The math works out to be 9.75% chance. So, that's awesome. Now, 2d4 plus 2 damage, It's not a lot, which is why I say that by the time you're hitting about the 3rd tier, which is level 10 or 11, wolves stop really being a threat of any kind. But they are great against low-level parties. I would definitely put wolves, and really anything we're going to talk about today, on as many random encounter tables as I can think of. These 4 are some of my favorite stat blocks from Appendix A. But now that I've gushed over wolves for a bit, let's move on to dire wolves. The dire wolf is a large beast, unaligned, with an armor class of 14, 5 d10 plus 10 hit points, a speed of 50 feet, 17 strength, 15 dexterity, 15 constitution, 3 intelligence, 12 wisdom, and 7 charisma. It is skilled in perception and stealth, giving it +3 and +4 respectively. It has a passive perception of 13, no languages, challenge rating 1. Its abilities are keen hearing and smell, giving it advantage on perception checks that rely on hearing or smell, and pack tactics, giving it advantage on attack rolls against a creature if at least one of the wolf's allies is within 5 feet of the creature and said ally is not incapacitated. Its action is a bite attack. It's a melee weapon attack, +5 to hit, reach of 5 feet, 1 target. On a hit, it does 2d6 +3 piercing, and if the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. And basically, this versus the wolf is a perfect example of how I would level up creatures. Its armor class is up by 1. It has higher strength by actually a lot, a bit of a higher constitution. It has the same abilities. Its bite attack is better, but actually, looking at it, it should be +6 to hit. Yeah. So, this is actually a little bit underpowered. All things considering, everything I said about the wolf applies to the dire wolf, except better. It has a lot more hit points. It's slightly faster, which just means that it's going to be harder to escape than it was to escape from normal wolves, which were already going to be hard. Let's see, what else? Its bite attack. It's a little bit easier to hit. The DC is a little bit harder. They just stepped up the dice and added 1 more piercing. Actually, looking at this, what I think was, I think at one point the wolf had slightly higher strength, and then it was toned down, and nobody edited the dire wolf or even parts of the wolf to reflect that. Dire wolves are awesome. They're also going to be the last non-evil creature we cover today. I would put this on as many encounter tables as I can. These are going to be challenging, maybe even up to 15th level, depending on how many dire wolves you have in a fight. So, Wonderful. Let's move on to the Winter Wolf. The Winter Wolf is a large monstrosity, neutral evil, with an armor class of 13, 10d10 plus 20 hit points, a speed of 50 feet, 18 strength, 13 dexterity, 14 constitution, 7 intelligence, 12 wisdom, 8 charisma. It is skilled in perception and stealth with a +5 and a +3. It is immune to cold damage, a passive perception of 15. It speaks Common, Giant, and Winter Wolf. Challenge rating of 3. It has keen hearing and smell, which gives it advantage on perception checks that rely on hearing or smell. It has pack tactics, which give it advantage on an attack roll against a creature if at least one of the Winter Wolf's allies is within 5 feet of the creature and said ally is not incapacitated. It also has snow camouflage, which gives it advantage on stealth checks made to hide in snowy terrain. It has 2 actions, a bite attack, which is melee weapon attack, +6 to hit, reach of 5 feet, 1 target. On a hit, it does 2d6 plus 4 piercing damage, and if the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 14 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. They also have a cold breath attack that recharges on 5 through 6. The wolf exhales a blast of freezing wind in a 15-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a dexterity saving throw, DC 12, taking 4d8 cold damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. The Arctic-dwelling winter wolf is as large as a dire wolf, but has snow white fur, and pale blue eyes. Frost giants use these evil creatures as guards and hunting companions, putting the wolves' deadly breath weapon to use against their foes. The winter wolves communicate with one another using growls and barks, but they speak common and giant well enough to follow simple conversations. So, that's an awesome amount of stuff. If you're going to use frost giants, give them a chance of having winter wolves with them. If not, just have winter wolves as a pack on their own. It also makes that bite attack all the worse, as they get pack tactics for a winter wolf and a frost giant, both attacking at a creature. The winter wolf gets advantage from pack tactics, and then it knocks the party member prone, so the giant then has advantage when it goes, if it goes before the party member. So again, a lot of what I said with the wolf and the dire wolf ring true for the winter wolf. It has a lot more hit points. Not that big of an armor class, but doesn't, with anywhere from 30 to 120 hit points, averaging out at 75, it doesn't super need a high armor class. The cold breath, it's a 15-foot cone, and it does a lot of cold damage. Even if you succeed. So, winter wolves, definitely, that's going to be an issue, whether there are frost giants with it or not. And if there are frost giants with it, that quickly becomes a hard fight. So, that's actually about it on the winter wolf. And let's go to the last creature, the Worg, which is not as impressive, I must say. The Worg is a large monstrosity, neutral evil, armor class of 13, 4d10 plus 4 hit points, speed of 50 feet, 16 strength, 13 dexterity, 13 constitution, 7 intelligence, 11 wisdom, and 8 charisma. It is skilled in perception with a +4. It has dark vision out to 60 feet and a passive perception of 14. It speaks Goblin and a Worg. Challenge rating 1/2. It has keen hearing and smell, which gives it advantage on perception checks that rely on hearing or smell. No pack tactics. And it has an action of Bite, which is a melee weapon attack, +5 to hit, reach of 5 feet, 1 target, and on a hit it does 2d6 +3 piercing. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 13 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. A Worg is an evil predator that delights in hunting and devouring creatures weaker than itself. Cunning and malevolent, Worgs roam across the remote wilderness or are raised by goblins and hobgoblins. These creatures use Worgs as mounts, but a Worg will turn on its rider if it feels mistreated or malnourished. Worgs can speak their own language and Goblin, and a few learn to speak Common as well. Honestly, after the Winter Wolf, the Worg is kind of underwhelming to me. I'm surprised it doesn't have pack tactics. But what the lack of pack tactics tells me is Worgs are not necessarily pack hunters. You can encounter a single Worg. I wouldn't have a single dire wolf, winter wolf, or just normal wolf. I might have a single Worg. If you're going to fight goblins, there's probably going to be Worgs. Same thing with hobgoblins. And I would have them use them as mounts, like have them riding in on it, which, again, that's going to help with the bite knocking them prone. That's going to help their allies. Because as I've said in the past, an ability that knocks someone prone is useless unless you can attack that creature again. Unless that side can attack the creature being knocked prone again before its turn. Yeah, so it's got decent hit points. It ranges from 8 to 44, which is a decent range. It's not that high of an armor class. Its bite attack is fine. I mean, it's almost the exact same as the dire wolf. However, without the pack tactics, that bite is slightly worse. So, overall, I think I like Worgs the least. I still like them, and if I use them, I probably would give them pack tactics. And then Worgs with, like, kobolds. You mix those together because, if I remember correctly, kobolds have pack tactics. A kobold riding a Worg, they would both have advantage on essentially every attack, which that gets ridiculous in the best ways. We'll eventually get to kobolds, and I will let you know why I love kobolds so much. It's primarily because if you use them well, they're so much harder to beat than their challenge rating implies that they are. But that is all I have to say about the Worg, which is, again, I would actually put the Worg slightly below the Wolf as written. If you give a Worg pack tactics, I think it ranks third in the Wolf stat blocks. I still like the Worg stat block, because, again, I think the Wolf, the base Wolf stat block that the three others are all iterations on is a really strong stat block and is one of the best that Appendix A has to offer. Because if you've been watching the series with each episode, you've seen a whole run of episodes where, you know, there are like 4 creatures per episode, and at best I would use 1. So I would use all 4 of these. I would probably use the Worg the least, or give them pack tactics. They would show up with goblins and hobgoblins. And yeah. Thank you so much for listening to what will be one of my favorite episodes from Appendix A. We will be back next week as we talk about horses. And make sure that you tune in tomorrow for episode 12 of Spaces Wide and Good Friends Are Too Few. Thank you.